Hello everyone, my name is Zhang Peiyou from the New York Qing Society. The title of my presentation is The Nature of Guqin Rhythm. Guqin music, especially instrumental music without lyrics, is known for its flexible rhythm, which is not uniformly fixed or standardized. While traditional Guqin 简字 notation is vague with respect to rhythm, allowing for interpretation and improvisation by the player. Modern Qing notation books often use number or staff notation to give some indication of rhythm. However, Qing musical sound recordings from the 1950s to the present demonstrate that the same melody played by different Qing masters can have different and varying rhythm. Thus, the question remains, does Guqin music require a fixed or standardized rhythm? And what is the nature of Guqin rhythm? Is a standardized rhythm an advantage or a disadvantage? Researching the nature of Guqin rhythm is a significant topic. Today I will give a brief report focusing on my analysis based on recordings by contemporary Qing players. I will refer to explanations of Guqin rhythm found in ancient books to gain some insights. I will also touch upon a little bit about Chinese philosophy regarding the absence of rhythm indication. Phrasing and pauses, beats, tempo, fingering techniques, improvisation and emotion are key factors involved in the rhythm of Guqin performances. These elements are relatively more predictable in Qing songs as compared to instrumental compositions. The inherent structure of the Guqin rhythm is also a factor that can influence sound production and the Guqin rhythm. The lingering tone of the Guqin's sound is primarily conveyed through techniques such as glissandos and vibratos, which generate sustained tones. Qing players' emotions and the moment of improvisation will also alter the music's rhythm. Phrasing and pauses. Chen Zhuo, a court Qing musician from late Tang Dynasty in the mid of 9th century, discussed in his essay 情说 on the Qing the importance of carefully observing the phrasing and pauses, which emphasizes the significance of determining the length of phrases and pauses when playing from ancient notation. In Chinese, rhythm is referred to as 节奏. In Chen Zhuo's essay on rhythm, he pointed out that 节奏 means both phrasing and the arrangement of pauses. A single note can be a 节, as can 2, 3, 4, or 5 notes. Each 节 is followed by a pause, after which the playing continues. Combining 2 or 3 节forms a phrase, where the use of pauses and expressive playing brings out the meaning within the phrases. In much ancient Guqin notation, there are indications of phrasing, like a period mark. However, in earlier Guqin handbooks, some ancient melodies are not marked with a period. There are various methods in ancient notation to identify the phrasing. For example, repeated phrases or certain finger techniques that commonly appear at the end of a phrase, such as 掐错三声, or using tones to determine the phrasing. Ending a phrase with the tonic note is also frequently seen. Additionally, yin and now vibratos serve as a good indicator of a lingering pause. The symbol 少息, a small rest, is a clear indication of a pause, and so on. Once the phrases are identified, the rhythm within each phrase can be determined using equal or unequal divisions as Chen Zhuo mentioned in his fingering essay. To give some examples, I selected 2 phrases from 西路堂琴童's 神人唱, Harmonies Between Human and Spirit, Section 6, and used Chen Zhuo's indications to demonstrate different rhythms for a 5-note phrase. There are various ways to arrange the rhythm, and I am presenting 3 examples to showcase the differences. You can see my brief number notation on the slide. Let's listen. First, 先慢3后连2. Second, 先慢1后连4. Third, 先慢3后慢2. Beat itself can be a big subject to discuss. I can only briefly talk about it today. Li Zhi, a mathematician from the Yuan dynasty, noted in his writing, 近斋古今头, all music has beats, but the qin has none. The qin has rhythm, which may resemble beats, but it is not beats. In the Qing Dynasty Qin Handbook 于古斋琴谱, it was mentioned that the term 节 refers to the beat, as wood is to be beaten to control the rhythm. It further explained various terms for beats such as head beat, waist beat, tail beat, interlude beat, slow beat, and tense beat. According to modern scholars Wang Fengtong and Zhang Ling, the ancient Chinese had a vague concept of rhythm and beats. Rhythm cannot replace beats. Rhythm is more infinitely rich than beats. In ancient China, the time value of beats was indefinite, 拍无定值, hands clapping once, a single hand hitting the table, striking a wooden board, hitting a drum, etc., all could be considered one beat. There was no concept of 4 quarter notes making up one measure. Traditional Chinese musical rhythm is based on the banyan, beat-eye rhythm. Hitting a wood board to control the music originated in the Tang Dynasty, and during the Song and Yuan Dynasty, when the drum and clapper were combined for one person to play, the concept of banyan occurred. The drum and clapper conducting technique matured in Kunqu opera, and it was during the Ming Dynasty that the term beat-eye was used. Clappers were used to hit the beat, while a drum was hit for the rhythm. In Mr. Cai Yan and Wang Chunfeng's study of metrical structure and freedom in Qing music of the Chinese literati, discussed that the 7-string zither of the Chinese literati is traditionally not thought of as informed by the banyan structure, and is categorized by metrical irregularities and ambiguities. According to the modern ethnomusicology professor Shen Qia from Shanghai, China, traditional Guqin music, like most traditional Chinese Han ethnic music, possesses the rhythmic characteristic of psychological pulsation. The regularity of strong and weak beats is not necessarily fixed. Therefore, it is inadequate to understand the rhythmic and melodic sense of Guqin music using the Western concept of meters or beats, which is categorized by the even division of time and the periodicity of strong and weak beats. I have attempted to identify the beats in Zhu Xichen and Wu Zhaoji's performances of Qiu Sai Ying, focusing on a few lines in section 4. I first established the fixed beats and then identified the possible psychologically stronger and weaker beats to better align with the performances. Now, let's listen to a short clip of their performances, accompanied by the added sound of a drummer to highlight the beat. This example demonstrates the randomness of strong and weak beats, 节拍的强弱随机, which is a characteristic feature of Guqin rhythm, also presents two different interpretations from two distinct Qin schools. In the Guqin Handbook 西路堂琴统 Volume 3, there is a chapter titled 节奏要诀, Essential Techniques for Achieving Proper Rhythm. A notable passage states, in big melodies, there are methods known as 颠前入后破歇拍, beginning with 颠, entering to 破, and finishing with 歇拍, that share similarities with the rhythm of big 操弄 melodies. If one can sing those melodies, then one will be able to play a 操弄 melody. 颠, 入破, and 歇拍 represent different parts of large musical compositions in ancient Chinese opera. This emphasizes the presence of rhythmic variations within instrumental Qin music. In the same book, Volume 4, in the chapter titled The Essential Techniques for Playing Qin, it is mentioned that if a piece is divided into 3 sections, the first is slow, the second is tight, and the third is relaxed, going from a relaxed pace to a tight one until reaching the end that completes a piece. This statement signifies the typical tempo structure in a Qin musical piece, starting slowly, gradually speeding up, and then slowing down towards the end. A tempo map is a tool I use to illustrate the tempo of Guqin music. BPM stands for beats per minute, with higher values indicating a faster tempo and lower values indicating a slower tempo. Here are 2 tempo maps of Qiu Autumn Frontier Intonation, also known as 搔首问天, Scratch the Head and Ask Heaven, or 水仙操, Melody of the Water Immortal, performed by Madame Cai Deyun and Mr. Zhu Xichen. These tempo maps correspond to the typical tempo structure of a Qin musical piece, starting slowly, gradually speeding up, and then slowing down towards the end, as indicated by the blue lines in these 2 figures. This progression of slower, faster, and slower is also represented in different sections. This is the tempo map for the first section of Qiu by 4 Qin masters, Zhu Xichen, Wu Jinglue, Wu Wenguang, and Wu Zhaoji. It is worth noting that Zhu Xichen used Mei An Qin Pu, which has a different tuning, lowered third, and is known as 搔首问天. However, it shares a similar fingering structure with the Qiu from the Wu Zhi Zhai Qin Pu, which both Master Wu Jinglue and Wu Zhaoji studied and derived their Da Pu, self-study and reconstructed versions from. we can observe that in the tempo map, the green line representing Master Wu Wenguang's performance starts with a faster tempo at the beginning and then slows down slightly compared to the blue line representing his father Wu Jinglue. On the other hand, the red line representing Zhu Xichen's performance, starting with a slower tempo than Wu Wenguang, but gradually accelerates as the section progresses, finishing the first section much faster than the other three masters. To compare it with the Qing tempo, I present a tempo map of 4 renowned cellists performing the first 9 measures of Bach's Cello Suite No. 1 in G major. It can be observed that, when playing the same composition, the variations in tempo among them are relatively consistent. This is what we have come to expect in Western music. Many of us have had the experience of learning piano with a metronome. While this example is from the classical repertoire, it is even more true of Western popular music. Certain finger techniques also have specific rhythms. We call it formulaic fingering, 套头指法 in Chinese. For example, the technique of 打圆 and 长锁. In many cases, 打圆, if one includes the 2 notes before and 1 note after the 打圆symbol, has the same rhythm structure as the 7-note 长锁. Here I put together 5 Qing masters playing of 打圆, which was played in the beginning of section 8 of Qiu Sai Ying. In order to hear the rhythm better, I used the sound of a drum to indicate their rhythm. Now let's listen. We can see they are follow a certain pattern, like da, 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 but still each has their own way of expression and nuances. Now, I like to provide some examples of different interpretations from different Qing players within the same piece. I will play a 1-minute video clip featuring 4 masters performing a phrase from Qiu Sai Ying. You can see the notation of the phrases from Wu Zhi Zhai Qing Pu, Wu Men Qing Pu, Mei An Qing Pu, and Pei Jie Qing Pu. Pay close attention to the first 2 notes, La and Re, played by each player. Now let's listen. The Qing scores used by these Qing players are all traditional scores without rhythm markings. It was only in the Wu Men Qing Pu that the rhythm was indicated based on Wu Zhaoji's performances. This shows that regardless of whether these Qing players learned from their teachers or transcribed the music themselves, their performances have presented distinctly different styles. Regarding the question of whether Qing tablature should include rhythm markings or not, it is essential to consider two major Chinese philosophies. Confucianism's principle of 离经变质, reading and analyzing the sentence structure to understand historical records, and 儿子识数之, the learning process resembling the transformation of a moth, and Taoism's concept of 有之以为利，无之以为用, using the formulas to create usefulness, shed light on the traditional Chinese approach to learning and application. Understanding these philosophical ideas provides insights into why ancient Qing tablature does not include rhythm markings. These ideas are reinforced by statements found in historical texts, such as 西路堂琴统, which suggests that more haste, less speed, 欲速则不达, and that rhythm cannot be fully expressed in written notation. Similarly, the 鱼骨斋琴谱 indicates that the inclusion of rhythm markings risks losing the spiritual essence due to rigid adherence. Also, the 神奇密谱 mentioned the absence of punctuation as a way to safeguard the secrecy of ancient scholars' knowledge. The advantage of Qing tablature with indication of rhythm and pitch is that it provides an efficient way to visualize how the music might be played. Similar to having punctuated texts, these indications offer clear guidance to beginners and those reconstructing ancient melodies, making it easier to understand the intended timing and pitch of each note. However, the disadvantage of using such detailed tablature is that it may preoccupy a learner's perspective and hinder them from developing their own thoughtful analysis of the music. Also, as Xu Jian mentioned in his book, New Compilation of Qing History, even with the precise modern staff notation, the recorded pieces may vary among different performers due to the individual personalities and creative expressions of the musicians. This should be allowed, as otherwise everything would become monotonous and lose its charm. I like to use Guqin's statement in his poetical essay on the Qing, emphasizing the solemn and unfathomable virtue of the Qing to conclude the nature of Guqin rhythm. Solemn indeed is the virtue of the Qing. It cannot be fathomed. Purity of body and aloofness of heart. Difficult indeed it is to attain to these heights. Translated by Robert Van Glick. As mentioned earlier, researching the nature of Guqin rhythm is a significant topic and task. I hope to see more related studies as they will contribute to the historical heritage, future education, and overall development of the Guqin. Thank you.